The session today is all about turning marketing data into your AI assistant. And there's no better person to present how to really get the best possible outputs from your spreadsheets, from your data, and make that work really hard for you. So I'd like to intro Mike. So Mike was recently the country lead for Overdose Digital, which is a digital commerce agency helping companies across New Zealand, such as Animates, House of Travel, Sleepyhead, really deliver end-to-end retail and digital commerce solutions. And now Mike, I see, is managing partner of Alex Ive, and I'm sure Mike can in a moment tell us a little bit more about that. But what Mike has been doing a lot of is really bringing to the fore all of the latest news around AI, insights, AI tool launches through his platform, the AI Corner. So Mike is a real authority in AI. He's got a really relevant background for presenting the data and the insights that he will be today. So right now, I'd like to hand over to Mike to run today's session. So big welcome to Mike.
Thank you, Philippa. Really appreciate the intro. That's very kind of you. I will take over screen share from
Yeah.
you. Awesome. Hey, well, very excited to be here and appreciate you all dedicating the hour. Looking forward to sharing some tips and tricks and techniques for how I think about using AI for data analysis and working with different tools and making sure spreadsheets are giving us AI is giving us the right information from spreadsheets coming through. So I suppose what we'll do is we'll spend about 45 minutes or so, and we'll keep a bit of a drumbeat going because there's quite a few slides to get through. I do want to make this as conversational as possible. So if you have a question, please do come off mute, whether it be too much jargon, let me know. If you've already covered some of the elements that I talk about, please again, let me know. Or if you're just curious, please do ask the question. But really what we'll focus on today is around, as marketers, and I've been a marketer for my entire career and part sales as well. There's data everywhere, and I'm sure most of your Monday mornings in your marketing roles have looked pretty similar, where you're opening up spreadsheets, reports, and dashboards, and you're trying to make sense of all the numbers. Like, how do I actually find the insight or the signal through the noise? Because you've got your social media management dashboard coming through, you've got sales dashboards coming through, you've got paid media and email coming through, what's happening in the CRM. And no one's quite sure how to make sense of it all, because this promise of how do we bring all of our data into one central space, find the insight, synthesize information, it's been a real challenge to come to fruition, and especially within 95% of New Zealand businesses where we don't have the infrastructure or the capital to invest in those big systems to help us make sense of all that information. So the problem is that we're trying to collate all this information, and by the time we get the insight, we feel like we're already behind because the world is moving so quickly nowadays with campaigns and decisions being made within businesses. So fortunately, AI is here to help us. It's definitely not the utopia, so you don't want to believe everything that you read on LinkedIn, but it's certainly developing and progressing in such a way that it can be incredibly effective to make us more efficient, to drive more accuracy and consistency with the outcomes and outputs that we're getting. I suppose the key for today that I want to cover is that a lot of this is available today in terms of the tools are here. What we can do is very powerful. What's really critical is how do we ensure we're prepping data before we're using it within AI? That's really, really key. And then making sure we're using the right tool for the right activities. They're all progressing at different speeds and levels. And when I say tools, I'm talking mostly about ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, and Claude from Anthropic. We'll spend most of our time in Gemini and ChatGPT for various reasons, which I'll get to. But these tools are so powerful today that if you're using them for specific tasks, you can get a lot out of your information with low investment and quite quickly upskilling on these platforms. I won't go into too much detail, but just to recap, the AI Corner is a passion project of mine, and it's enabled me to pivot my career from being a commercial leader in marketing automation and technology into purely delivering AI services for commerce, retail, and manufacturing clients in New Zealand. I feel very grateful I'm able to talk about this all day with people on sales calls and in delivery workshops and building for people, as well as interviewing folks through the AI Corner and telling stories about what's happening within the New Zealand ecosystem. So please do follow along on LinkedIn, Spotify, YouTube, subscribe to the email. It comes out every Monday with a wrap up of what's happening in New Zealand's AI ecosystem, the events for the week, any jobs that we think are really interesting, and then more broadly speaking, what's happening globally within the tech space that's relevant to the New Zealand ecosystem as well. Awesome. I promise we'll get to the demo very quickly, but in terms of just to recap some of the learning objectives for today, what we'll be doing is learning how to prepare your data. As we all know, garbage in, garbage out is incredibly important and relevant in this particular world. Excellent, thank you. I just read the comments. So yeah, garbage in, garbage out, very important. We need to think about how do we prepare our data for AI to leverage a sound foundation. There are ways we can talk to our data. I'm sure you've all explored this through uploading a spreadsheet or a CSV into ChatGPT and asking for insights. Maybe you've got some good results, maybe you haven't. There are a number of techniques we can use to improve the outcomes that we're getting. And then there are also ways to visualize and analyze that data differently across a variety of tools, even tools that are able to help you consume information when you're on the go. So you may not have to be at your screen, but you can receive summaries from your spreadsheets and reports to enable you to deliver information in a different format, which is also helpful when you're sharing information internally with your teams and executives and clients as well. Instead of just sending over a report, why not send a podcast? There are simple ways to do that to be able to deliver what is sometimes can be a relatively uninteresting topic for most, but there are ways we can make this more powerful for many. And then structuring your AI, I've got 10 commandments for how to prepare spreadsheets to make sure that the AI can read them accurately. We'll try to get to those as best as possible, but they're fairly straightforward and easy to read in your own time, which I'll leave as a takeaway. I suppose one thing to call out is I won't be going into specifics around this is the best questions to be asking for the best data analysis results. And that comes from the fact that we all work in different systems. We all have different types of marketing roles. You're all incredibly experienced practitioners when it comes to marketing and data analysis. So I don't want to tell you the questions to be asking the AI. I'm going to be giving you the tools, the techniques, and just to show you some workflows for how you can begin to embed those workflows within your own day-to-day ways of working to get better outcomes from the tools. Excellent. Okay, so we'll cover two main buckets. I'm calling them understanding your data, so cleaning, validating, exploring the data to uncover what's happening within the business. And then the second piece is around generating business intelligence, analyzing, understanding what the insights are, delivering that information in different formats. So we'll go through those two capabilities because they really do compound together once we get them right. I suppose before we jump in, just a quick show of hands. Who's opened ChatGPT, uploaded a spreadsheet, and used it to analyze some marketing data before? Just want to do a sense check around the room. Excellent. And we were finding out which campaign worked, what didn't work, what we should reallocate our budget for, those sorts of questions, or were we asking different types of questions to get some insights?
I've always just been using it to like generate graphs and charts. What about you guys?
I suppose another question is, has anyone had success or has anyone had terrible results? I've had both. So it's not all a utopia around here. That's it.
Yeah, I've used it to analyze how the week went, like how we are showing up in the market and how it compares to just our competitors. And so there's different charts that I put in, and then it will go through and then tell me just how to move forward and just really go into like really good details on what's gone on in the market and just some recommendations.
Awesome.
So it's been good for meetings. Yeah.
Excellent. Sounds like you've had some good results.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to hear. Okay. And then I suppose lastly, and really importantly, I'm sure this has been covered as part of the foundational pieces. How confident are we about putting our data into these tools? You know, are we aware of the risks of that and what sort of licenses we have and those guardrails we should be putting in place?
Yeah, that's one area we haven't gone in deep. Mike, on this course would be more about practical use cases. So it's a really interesting topic.
I know
Excellent.
I definitely am always conscious and will put in things that aren't sensitive or anything like that. Like I've used ChatGPT a bit to shortcut things with formulas, like set up a template with the formulas in there, and then I'll put the data in once I've extracted it again.
Love that. I think that was probably one of the first things I did, was just helping it make me run spreadsheets in Excel better, and it was phenomenal. I think it's a really important topic, and I'm sure it'll be covered in detail at some point. And it sounds as though everyone's aware. The good thing is that the models, ChatGPT included, Claude, they all have the ability now where you can turn off your conversations from training the models. And naturally, if you're using a personal account, an individual paid plan, even not even just a free plan, typically there's a risk your data can be used as part of the training of the models. If you're using a Teams or a business type account or an enterprise plan, that information typically is guarded off and won't be used. So it sounds as though everyone's aware, but always good to check to make sure, what am I putting in there? Am I comfortable that if this were to be exposed to the public, do I want it to be seen? But just really knowing those guardrails is basically the first sense check to run as part of any AI system or any process or strategy that someone might be embedding within a business. Before we move forward, just to clear up on terminology, I know everyone uses Microsoft. I know a lot of people use Google Sheets as well. There's also CSVs as a file format. For the purposes of today, they're all interchangeable. It doesn't really matter. What I will say is that CSVs are the best file format for using within AI. Reason being is they come through with less of the coding mess behind the scenes. It's easier for AI to interpret a CSV. The good news is that most, if not all, data systems you can export a spreadsheet, a table, a data set as a CSV. So it's very universal in that respect. Okay, a couple more really important pieces. What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about getting started with using Sheets in AI. Again, sheets doesn't matter. And then we'll go into the demo and the use cases of the different ways to use AI. The last piece is where we'll talk about actually preparing your spreadsheet before you even put anything into AI. So we'll go back around, but I believe the 10 commandments around preparing your spreadsheet are less fun and interesting. So that's why I put them at the end. But one of the really important hygiene layers to think about when you use AI is to basically validate that the AI understands the information you've given it. And what I mean by that is you basically want to ask AI, this is what I'm giving you. Can you reinterpret it for me? Can you show me you understand what I mean? And then it's up to you as the person to basically sense check that against your spreadsheet to say, yes, you've got the right data in there. That is fundamentally the best thing to do at the beginning. You're essentially ensuring that the AI isn't going to hallucinate or make things up. And of course, that's not foolproof. It'll still make stuff up without a doubt, but you're giving yourself the best shot of the AI interpreting your spreadsheet and giving you back the right information. So again, it boosts that confidence piece, but also it primes the AI. Essentially what you've said is go and learn and study this book before you tell me anything about a chapter within the book. So you're ensuring that you're moving towards a position of accuracy and confidence before you even get started. Because a lot of people jump in and they just upload a spreadsheet and say, tell me what the numbers mean. It's, again, just take the 5 minutes, take the 2 minutes, upload it, check it, see what happens. I've included a sample prompt in here to make it very simple. It's all we're doing essentially is asking it to reproduce the spreadsheet in its own table format to reinterpret it. A really smart way to make this easy is to create a chat GPT, a custom GPT, which not sure if everyone's familiar with one of these, but essentially what you're doing is you're creating your own mini GPT with some instructions in the back end. And I'll bring up these as examples so we can have a visual. Has my screen shifted to ChatGPT?
Yeah, it has.
Cool. So as an example here, what I have done is I have uploaded a data set and I have said, recreate this as a markdown table. Markdown is a fancy coding term, which basically means it's plain text. It's stripped of all as much code as possible to just be the bare bones of the data. Basically, and I validated this, the spreadsheet I uploaded is reflective of what is on screen. So I am now confident that I can begin to talk to the spreadsheet and say, what happened across the YouTube ads within the month of May? What was the best performing campaign across desktop or mobile? And I know I'm probably going to get a pretty good result. As the models have improved, we can have more and more confidence that the accuracy of what the AI is giving us back is accurate. GPT-5 was a massive step up in that respect. It's certainly not perfect, but we're heading in the right direction. And then as I mentioned around the GPT, I'll bring that up to give an example. Basically what I've done here is that prompt that I had on screen to say you're a data specialist, data scientist. I want you to take the file I give you, recreate it as a markdown table. I've loaded that in as a custom GPT in my ChatGPT instance. I can then call on this GPT within the conversation rather than having to retype this prompt or copy paste the prompt from a file source outside of ChatGPT back into GPT. So there are ways that we can just make this a lot more efficient and make our working process a lot smoother. Please do any questions, please do sing out as well.
And did you,
Great.
sorry, one question, did you write
Yep.
your prompt or did you ask ChatGPT to write your prompt for your custom GPT?
I am through and through a meta prompter. I
Okay,
barely
right.
ever write my own prompts. I get them to write them myself.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of using Whisper Flow, which is like a dictation tool. I hold down a key on my keypad and I just talk to it and it interprets it. But yes, always get ChatGPT to rewrite your prompts.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our spreadsheets into what I call talking data analysts, or it's like having a data scientist in your pocket. 10 key things. We'll race through these, but again, you'll be able to review them in your own time. First piece is you really want to clean up any messy data. Super important. So as an example, and I've recreated a bunch of scenarios to make sure we can all follow along. This is an example of a spreadsheet that we might be wanting to use. It's got a bunch of performance marketing data. You can see we've got all the dates, channels, campaigns, the ad sets, the audience, et cetera, et cetera. The details don't matter so much for now, but we can see here we've got an empty column, the click-through rate column, which we know that we can calculate that click-through rate through the data we have in the clicks and impressions within the spreadsheet, but it's currently missing. So what we want to do is basically we're going to ask ChatGPT to fix the data for us. So rather than me going in there and running a calculation, et cetera, I'll just get ChatGPT to do it. It's run that process and it's created the file for me, which I will open up the file. And to give an example, we can see in here, there we go. We can see we've got the click-through rate has been added to the spreadsheet. It's run the calculation for me. Now, of course, that's a very basic example, but you can imagine when we get data sets, they're often very messy. There's stuff all over the show, and we just need it cleaned in some way, shape, or form, or we need the formatting to be consistent. Maybe we have different types of currency across one sheet. We might have pounds and New Zealand dollar symbols, for example. We might have some areas that might be percentage-based, or we might have decimal places. There are all those inconsistencies which we really need to make sure are consistent for AI to be able to better interpret the information. So that's the first piece. We can use AI to clean up our own data. The second piece is often we're dealing with multiple data sets. We might be looking at performance data from August and September. And it's never, we want to look for trends. We want to see what's happening across the different months. Are we moving in the right direction? What can we learn from what we've been doing? So what we've got here is I simply uploaded 2 different sheets and said, can you combine these 2 reports for me? Because I want to be able to compare them as part of one document. I actually asked it to add some graphs and some charts, which it wasn't able to do. So we've qualified that that wasn't a capability of ChatGPT within the spreadsheet specifically. And then here it is, it's produced the spreadsheet for me. So instead of having 2 separate performance marketing spreadsheets, I've now got the combined data as part of one document. So again, makes my life easier. I'm now only dealing with one data set. I've got September in here, you can see, and I've also got August. It's even added in, which is, I'll show that for a future use case. It's added in a few extra tabs from each of the spreadsheets for me to make sure that I've got everything from those documents. We're still following along. I just don't want to move too quickly.
Yeah, I just think about my old role and how long it used to take me to like merge things, add tabs, figure out how to do calculations that weren't already there and I hadn't done before. It's so funny.
Absolute nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then that's okay. So we've prepared our data. We've got all our data into one place. Then we probably want to start to think about what sort of questions we want to ask our data. And of course, we know good questions. We're all marketers. We've done this for a long time. But back to the meta prompting point, let's use ChatGPT to help us come up with different questions. And let's give it a framework to make sure that the questions that it provides us with are robust and detailed and cover a number of bases so that we're going to get the best output. Really simple. What are 10 questions I can ask my marketing performance report data set to get a really good grip on the quality of performance for the month of August? I need to share my insights with the supply team, executives, and the digital team. I've got a prompting framework. There's many prompting frameworks, but Crisp A, I guess you can call it, is a favorite of mine. I've given an example which I pulled from Google, or maybe it's from ChatGPT actually. And it's given me then 10 high impact questions, which I can then use. I can upload my spreadsheet, I can ask the questions, I'll get all the information. Super simple process, but just helps us think more broadly, cover more bases, and get a really good framework in place where we know that these questions are going to cover arguably some form of a best practice, which as humans, we're not always going to come up with the right answer, or we're not going to remember everything. So this helps us as a bit of a safety net. Number 4, now there are a number of ways we can take our data and bring it into ChatGPT. We can obviously upload the file, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, or we can use the connectors within the different systems. So provided you've got your data sources connected within ChatGPT, for example, you authenticate like you would with any kind of Google product. You can start to add those files into you can start to call on those files within the conversation. So what I did here is I had my sources turned on, so it knows to be looking at my different connected data sources, of which Google Drive is one of them. Maybe I didn't even have it turned on, I'm not sure. And I said, find the Lumina, which is a fictitious company that we're working with, performance marketing report for September. It couldn't actually find the document, so I had to get more specific. Review my Google Drive, find the file. Fortunately, it found the file. You can see it's showing it here. It's rendering. We can see the sources of where it was looking. It found the presentation that I'm talking about. It found a Google Doc I've got for planning, and it found the document that I've uploaded to my Google Drive. So the beauty is there. It removes that step of having to find the file, upload it, and I can just access it within this instance. It also means that we remove the risk of version control, because now I'm always talking to a live file within Google Sheets, which is probably the biggest game changer that they've implemented over the past couple of months around making sure those connectors can bring in live data from across our different data sources. This is applicable not only to ChatGPT. Gemini, by virtue of being a Google product, is far superior if you work within the Google ecosystem and instance. I didn't even have to reference Google Drive. I just said, find the Lumina performance marketing report from September. It's found the document, it's referenced it, it's found a bunch of other information that's relevant to the keywords, but it's figured out that this is the file that I'm looking for, so it's intelligent enough. It's already given me some insights as well, really positive, but now I can begin having a conversation with it. So I could say, tell me what happened across TikTok versus LinkedIn as a really good example. And just to give you another example of how it works in Claude, for those who might be familiar with Claude, it's another really powerful tool. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini all have their pros and cons. Claude is excellent for connecting across data systems and producing artifacts like documents and spreadsheets and so forth. Gemini is amazing because it's connected to the Google Suite, so it's able to pull all that information from across your Google Drive. ChatGPT is a bit of a Swiss Army knife. It's okay in connectors, its models are pretty good, it has good versatility, but they all sort of have their pros and cons, but it often comes down to people's preferences as to which one they prefer to lean towards. Here's an example of how it didn't work. Okay, I've got the wrong one here. Essentially what I did is I tried to find the same file, which Claude is connected to my Google Drive. I tried to find that file. It wasn't able to find the information. I don't know if Claude can actually find spreadsheets, which is probably the challenge there. Awesome. All right, accessing insights in your instances without even having to upload the spreadsheet. We've basically demonstrated that, but essentially what I've done here is go and find the file, tell me how we performed. It's given me a bit of an update. It's even produced its own spreadsheet version of some of the important insights, which just makes my life easier. I don't have to go and find the file. I'm always using the same up-to-date version of the information, and I can have a conversation back and forth with my information and my data. Any questions as we move through?
I'm assuming if you're do you feed as much context into all of your models? Because, for example, imagine if you'd run a specific campaign for a special reason, is
Mhm.
it picking up all of that context from what was happening in the market, like the prior stuff that you've been talking
Yes.
about, right? When it's coming back
Yeah.
to make that commentary on what the performance is and what actions to take?
Yes, yeah, good question. So provided all the information is in my Google Drive, then I can talk to it and it can bring in, say the strategy document or the campaign plan I had, and then I can say as part of the report, make sure you reference the strategy doc or the campaign to make sense of how we're going and what improvements we could make. That is probably the biggest challenge with these tools today is that they're very good at having a narrow conversation with information you give it. The ability to look across your entire corpus of information, not only just documents and strategy documents, but how do we get it to talk to our ERP or our inventory management system or our CRM, and to bring in all of that context to have a really robust and informed conversation. That's an enterprise level problem that big businesses are trying to solve. That's an expensive problem to solve today as well. So there is a lot of that manual copy paste into the system to give it the right context, which often means sometimes uploading additional documents or strategy files to kind of round it out.
Yeah, exactly.
This
So it's a
is
bit like a upload latest brand tracking, right? And getting
exactly.
the insights from both documents at one time.
Yeah, and here's a really good example of how I tend to manage it. We've got GPTs in ChatGPT, and you've got Gemini gems in Gemini. So, for example, what I've created here is a performance marketing analyst GPT. Um, Basically, you're a senior performance marketing analyst. Your role is to review information, give me insights, make recommendations. I've got a bunch of exclusions and constraints around how it should reply to me or what it should be thinking about. I've given it a response format guideline. Like this instruction could be a lot more detailed. I could be quite prescriptive, but I've tried to keep it open so that I give the AI a bit of latitude
Yeah.
into how it thinks and comes back to me. To your point, if I was being really smart here, I would upload a strategy document to say, here is all our marketing campaigns. Here is the campaign report as well. Here's performance marketing. I can now have that conversation to say, how did we perform from August to September? And what does our inventory and campaign report tell us?
This is a
And while
great demo to like a good example, because I know Nicole was like, oh, what's the difference between custom GPTs and how we use them versus projects? So this is a great example of getting really niche, you know what I mean? Really specific on what you want your GPT to do.
Perfect. Okay, so to give a bit of context, so GPTs have more flexibility than gems. They all do the same baseline thing, which is I give it a name, I give it an instruction, and I can upload some documents. So basically, I'm talking to my own grounded chatbot. Grounded being it only talks to the information I give it. Well, that's what it prioritizes, I should say. And the beauty with GPT is that I can customize what model it uses. I can give it up to 20 files. I can create conversation starters. So if I have a GPT that's helping me write content for LinkedIn, for example, that blank page problem is evident for most people. So I could have 5 conversation starters, which when I open up the GPT in the morning, it could say, do you want to talk about a trend? Do you want to talk about something in the news? Do you want to talk about a personal experience? And that'll help prompt me towards creating my content. So those conversation starters are a great way to get off that blank page problem. You've also got additional capabilities in GPTs. Do I want to turn on or off web search? Do I want to open up the canvas, which I think is a really neat feature we'll talk about shortly? Do I want to give the GPT the ability to generate images? And really importantly for the topic that we're discussing, code interpretation and data analysis, this is basically giving GPTs the ability to use Python, so basically a coding language, to be able to better interpret the data within a spreadsheet or a CSV and to really understand it to give us an output that makes sense to us mere mortals. But as you can see from my question to it around how was August, how was September, what happened in the campaigns, I've now got a working chatbot. No longer do I need to read that spreadsheet, get overwhelmed. I can start to get really prescriptive to say and ask questions along the lines of like, how did TikTok perform in August versus September? Where should we change our investment of budget? Should we invest more on LinkedIn, do you think? Or Meta? I've got peak season coming up. Should I reduce my Google search efforts and just focus on social? We can get really prescriptive with the conversation. And we can also, as you know, with prompting, we can start to prescribe what is that output format that we want, because maybe we want to run this conversation or report every day or every week or every month. I probably want the same type of formulaic response or output, because I need to then move that into a presentation document, or I need to share it within Microsoft Teams or Slack or on email. So I want to have that same consistency across the output that we see.
Just a quick question, Mike. So you're talking about ChatGPT here, but just if you're using Gemini, because it's part of the Google ecosystem, does it connect to your Google Ads account or your Google Analytics in any way? You're uploading spreadsheets here, but could Gemini just automatically connect to your Google accounts in terms of ads and provide this sort of analysis?
Great question. And that comes back to the point I was referencing earlier, where there's this enterprise level challenge that big businesses are able to solve, where they can bring in Google Ads, Meta, all the rest of it as part of their big corpus of information. Unfortunately, that's not available at call it the individual level or the small business level today within the tools that we're talking about. So the Gemini Enterprise product was released not long ago. Basically, Gemini Enterprise combines, I've got Gemini as we all have it today with some slightly additional features and functionality. I've got some better creative tools around VO3 for video generation, for Nano Banana around image generation. But out the back of it, there's this full technical suite. They've got basically a platform called Agent Space. And Agent Space is their full agent building platform. And we piloted Agent Space maybe 6 months ago at Overdose. We didn't end up picking it for a particular reason, but one of them being the connectors were pretty elementary. So for example, we could connect in Google Drive, Google Calendar, Gmail. We could connect in Salesforce and HubSpot, but we couldn't even connect in BigQuery, which is another Google product, or Looker, which is another Google product, or Google Ads. All of those native products weren't even available yet to bring in that data into Google, which basically redid the platform it was too early for us. I know it's progressed significantly since then. What we ended up purchasing was a platform called Glean. Glean is basically being built by some ex-people from Google, which has two really interesting features and functionality to the platform. One of them is the knowledge search, which is essentially what you're referencing. It's, can you pull information from all of my data sources across the business? Glean does that really, really well. It has a ton of connectors across all of the major apps that we work across. And then it has the agent building capability. What are those workflows I can build out that automate jobs for me? So every morning I wake up, my Slack channel tells me that we're ahead of budget or we're behind budget. Or when a competitor makes an update to the website, I get a notification because I've built an agent that is watching that website. So long-winded way of saying, no, we can't do Google Ads and analytics in Gems at the moment. That will be coming. The way to get around that, I would recommend, is how are we sending reports from Google Ads into Google Sheets and then connecting that Google Sheet into your gem. Because the beauty with gems, which ChatGPT doesn't have within its GPTs, is these documents are live. I've connected those once. They will stay live. When I come back in a week, when this information updates, I'll be talking to new information. Within the GPT, I've uploaded that. I have to re-upload this document next week once the numbers change. That's the major difference between the two, which is why gems are better for live information and just talking to the right bits and pieces. GPTs are much more effective if you're leveraging these capabilities, which are slightly more advanced, I would say. The actions are a whole new kettle of fish in themselves. I could set up a GPT that basically enables me to read my inbox, and I could send information, emails out of the GPT through my inbox. There's a whole bunch of workflows I can set up using actions, which take a bit more coding capability and knowledge. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, So we've basically shown how we can create a data analyst chatbot using live information, and ChatGPT would be manually uploaded. One of the questions that Philippa posed earlier, which is really important, and some people will be familiar with, is projects. As we know, one of the challenges with AI is that I have a conversation with, this used to be a major problem. That problem is going away more and more. I used to have a conversation with ChatGPT today, and then I would come back tomorrow and I would have to basically tell the same information again to give the AI context about the situation. You know, ChatGPT, I want to go out for dinner tonight. Where do I go? Come back tomorrow, I'd have to repeat myself and say, hey, I've actually changed my plans. What do I do? Et cetera, et cetera. The beauty is that these tools are building more and more memory. So they're remembering conversations I had last week. They're able to draw on those insights and use that as context for giving me a more personalized experience. But one way that we can control that even more is using ChatGPT's projects. So if we haven't come across projects, I'll just call them out as to where they are. We've got our GPTs up here, which you create those custom GPTs that we've been talking about. Then I've got my project section. Incredibly valuable. This is basically a space where, and some people will get confused between projects and GPTs, which is absolutely understandable. I still struggle to explain it sometimes. Basically, a project is like a folder structure, and I can upload files into that folder structure. Same as a GPT, that information is not live. I have to manually upload those. But what's different about a project is I can have multiple conversations. You could think of these as files. These are different files within a folder structure. And the beauty is that I can say within the Lumina folder structure or project in this case, I only want you to remember information that I've talked to you about within this project corpus. So that means that it's not going to draw on any context from other conversations or other projects. I can be very specific in my discussions. So if I've had a conversation in another channel and the project's talking about the performance in August, I can just come in here and say, tell me what happened in August. And I don't have to upload new information, or I don't have to copy paste it from one chat to another. It's incredibly advantageous and a great way just to start to structure your information within ChatGPT. And as you can see, I've got customer calls that I collect in here. I've got podcast transcripts. I do my thinking around content ideas, etc. It's a way to basically organize information and make sure that we're talking to the same bucket of information on a regular basis. Memory powered analysis is a good way to say it. Claude has the same functionality. The reason I'm not using Claude as much today is I've actually maxed out my usage for the month, so I can't do too much, but maybe it's time to upgrade. Awesome. I'll give a quick example. Number 8, uploading a spreadsheet. We've talked about that, asking questions. I always think it's worthwhile just calling out the differences in prompting and how we prompt. So what we've done is we've uploaded a performance marketing report here. And basically the first prompt is very basic. It's as basic as you can get. Create for me an exec summary of this report. And the response is good. I know this information is correct, which is good. Again, Gemini is incredibly accurate with reading spreadsheets and delivering the right information. Average CPA, it's given me the top performers, most efficient channels, stable performers, underperformers. You know, if we think about it logically, is this exec level summary? You could say it is. It's a summary of a major report. Is it fit for an exec? Maybe a CMO, they'll understand all this information. The CFO, this is way too much detail into marketing speak, same with the CEO, but it's a pretty good crack for very little effort when it comes to prompt comprehensiveness. What I've done here is a second example. I've gone, give me an exec summary. So basically the same prompt, but all I've said is, here's the format I want you to give it to me. So I haven't told it how to think. I haven't told it to exclude or include certain information. All I've said is, this is just how I want you to present the information. Again, pretty good. This is more in line with what I would say an exec summary could look like in some way, or it would fit into a report. Top performing channels and campaigns. And then we've got the summary. August was positive. We did well for Meta and PMax, and a recommendation. We should do something about our LinkedIn budget basically and reallocate funds. But there's no specifics with that. It's not telling me how much. It's not telling me what I should take that money from and when I should do it, what I should change it to, I should say. It's sort of lacking in a bit of detail. So then we've got a third prompt, and this is where I've gone much more granular in terms of this is your role. You're a senior marketing analyst. You're reporting to a head of marketing. You've got to analyze all of these key metrics. I want a really concise summary. Here are the steps you think through. So this is called chain of thought reasoning. Basically, this is saying, I want you to read this first. I want you to do some sums. I want you to rank things. I want you to prioritize, or then want you to summarize. So telling the AI to think through activities step by step is incredibly powerful, that chain of thought process. I've said, make sure it's in bullet points in your output. It's the same, sorry, it's the same format as the previous prompt. I've even given it a good and a bad, a good example. Examples within AI prompting is probably the number one hack. I even go as far to say is use a rubric, and I want you to assess your outputs on that rubric. And to give AI an ability to score or benchmark itself is incredibly powerful for the outcome. So what we'll see is the outcome here is much the same as the previous one. It's the same format in effect, which is good. But what you'll notice here, and it's a very subtle difference, is that the summary is slightly more detailed and specific. So in the previous one, we didn't have that performance was 1.5x on ROI. We just said it was positive. We had the same metric around 75% for those two channels and their contribution to conversions. That's great, but it didn't have the reasons why. It was because of a highly efficient CPA, cost per action. We saw that LinkedIn is an issue with a bit more specifics around it, but then you get to the recommendation, low return on LinkedIn, and reallocate the 9K budget to the top performing channels. So you can see we've got a lot more granular just by telling it to think in a different way and to be more specific. This is infinitely more usable. You can imagine if we'd given those two different exec summaries, the first one and this one, to an executive or anyone in the team, how much more informed they are about what they should be doing. So coming back to that point around meta prompting, cannot understate how important that is just to get those extra elements of detail out of your outputs that are really going to drive proper decision making within a business. Righty.
Yeah.
Conscious of time.
Great example, Mike. Yeah,
Thank
really
you.
good.
Okay, we'll speed through these last two and we'll get to the next one. Comparing model outputs, I'm going to make an assumption that you've all used different GPTs or Claudes and Geminis and so forth, but I always think it's fun to watch how they work differently. So what I've got here is I've uploaded the same performance marketing report to GPT, Claude, and Gemini. Got exactly the same prompt. I've even turned on the thinking model, so it thinks more differently. It thinks, more in depth. Claude, I've chosen Sonnet 4.5, sorry. That's the higher reasoning model. And then for Gemini, I've gone with 2.5 Pro for more in-depth thinking again. Damn it. We have reached maximum. So we'll go back to Flash. Let's just see what we get. Again, this comes down to a bit of personal preference. For me personally, GPT as a thinking partner, brilliant, back and forth. It's fast. It gives me quick ideas. I can steer the conversation more fluidly if I don't like the way it's responding to me. I find Gemini and Claude are a bit more, they get stuck on a train of thought or writing, and it just drives me nuts. Gemini has come back straight away with answers, it's a pretty detailed looking report. I'd say that's a great start. You've got ChatGPT, it's running its Python script, the code interpreter, data analyst piece. It's still going through this process. Claude, what have we got here? It's running, same again, it's running code. It's using a bunch of scripts and so forth. This could take a little bit longer than we'd hoped. But basically what we'll see is you'll start to build a bit of a preference. Again, I like the control that ChatGPT gives me. Gemini is more accurate for numbers. Claude, I find, is much more thoughtful in its ability to interpret information and actually give me a really well thought out answer. So better reasoning models is basically the summary there. But what we'll do is we'll go back to our slides and we'll come back and review this at the end if we have some time. But always interesting to see how these different tools think and how they work. Lastly, on this one, before we move to the next slide, I mentioned canvases before. I think canvases are some of the most underrated capabilities within GPT in particular. So what we've got here is this is the normal conversation window. I'm having my chat, and then you've probably seen at some point or another this thing here, a canvas essentially. Basically, you can ask ChatGPT to create a canvas for you. You can download that canvas into a document. This I find is a really good way to build reports and to do your work. So a lot of my work these days isn't done in Google Drive, Google Docs or PowerPoint or even writing emails in Gmail. I'm actually working in Canvas. It's faster. I have access to obviously intelligence to think with. I can pull in information and context from other windows. When I've got my finished output within the Canvas, that's when I'll copy paste it into a Google Drive and then PDF it. Or I might copy paste into a Gmail and then send it, of course. So basically, this is a great way to get yourself to a finished report. This created a performance comparison for me. It's got all the data. The tables look pretty good. I can then go and edit. I can do sorts of changes. I can even have it prompt. I can even prompt specific elements of the report, so I can get really specific with the changes I want to make. And then it's got some other piece up here. I can actually share this with people even better. I can monitor changes. So I've got the history or version control. I can copy paste it. The download piece is really good as well. Straight away, I've just got a PDF done. Obviously, this isn't in my branding, which is why I would copy paste it into Google Drive or Google Docs and sort of take it from there. But you can see the power of being able to work within a really functional Microsoft Word type environment, but with ChatGPT at your fingertips. And I know that Copilot and Docs and all that have their AI built in, but ChatGPT is much more flexible with what it can do there. Gemini is much the same. Again, this is a really good looking report. It even has editing capability. I can choose headings in the canvas within here, bullet points. So, and this is, these capabilities up here, the formatting, that wasn't available in Gemini, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, I want to say. So the tools are just moving rapidly. I've got a lot of capability. I can suggest edits. I'm assuming I can probably share and bring someone else in to have a conversation with the document too. It's not just me. So yeah, very, very powerful tool. Some pro tips. I mentioned at the beginning, use CSVs. Again, all of these files will all these tools will enable you to download a CSV. Some prompting tips, which you've been through the prompt training before. I've included my thoughts on those tools and where they all differ and what they're better at. If you're unsure about any outputs, just ask AI, are you sure this number is correct? I can see it's incorrect. What do you think? Leverage reasoning models, really powerful to make sure you're getting the best outputs. It's thinking through the process rather than just sort of giving you its gut reaction from what it sees. Alrighty, we will crank through these ones, and I won't talk about the 10 commandments because that's going to take too long, but they're very straightforward. Generating business intelligence. What we've talked about is setting up the data and even using and working with the data. Now I like to think about how else can I enrich that data to be more interesting. A really good example is I might combine a data set, so upload a spreadsheet, and then I might want to get some more information from another space. I'm not sure if folks have used Perplexity Comet. So you would have seen OpenAI release their new AI browser the other day. Perplexity Comet is an AI browser. It's not Chrome, it's something quite different, which provides a lot of capabilities. Basically, what I've got here is this assistant in the top right-hand corner. And effectively, this assistant, I can tell it to do stuff in my browser. So what I've said to it here is, tell me my competitors in the athleisure space for Lumina, what are they promoting on their homepages right now? I haven't touched the keyboard. It's gone away and done a bunch of research for me. It's told me that Lululemon is promoting Lululemon. AIM in NZ has got a limited time offer on hot pants, etc., etc. When I ran this prompt yesterday in the assistant, it actually opened up in the tabs all of these homepage websites. And so it basically went out and did the job on its own. The other day within the assistant, I bought a new lawnmower. I needed some batteries and a battery charger. I had no idea which batteries would work with the lawnmower. I typed into here, I said, hey, I've got this lawnmower, here's a photo. I need batteries and a charger. Go and add them to cart for me. And then I literally watched my browser go to the website. It found the right product. It went through all the forums. It checked itself off, and then it went to the checkout, and it said, are you ready to pay? I've done shopping in New World here. I've said, go and find me a banana cake recipe, and you can watch it maneuver around the screen, etc., etc. Best part is it's free. It didn't used to be free up until about a month ago. I'd say it's the most powerful browser, and it's just there's a lot you can do in here. You can send emails from it. I've had it unsubscribe me from Slack channels at work. It changes your life. So combining that competitor information that you could find using the likes of a Perplexity Comet by telling it to do stuff. Are we across deep research agents? Have we talked about how powerful those can be?
Touched on it. You realize that AI, there's so much to AI. We've done 3 weeks out of 4,
Yeah.
but like this is 12 weeks worth, right? So
Awesome. Okay, so very high level.
yeah.
Sorry. And so, this is just adding a bit of an enrichment to our information to make sure that we're dealing with not only our internal data around our performance reports or any context we provide about strategy, but what's happening in the market. We don't want to be insular with just our organization. Like, what are the trends that are out there? So using a deep research agent, I have basically created a report. I said, we are an athleisure brand or activewear brand. This is our goal. These are the markets we sell to. These are the products we sell, et cetera, et cetera. It's provided me with a brief. This is in Gemini, of course. ChatGPT has its own, Claude has its own. My preference is Gemini for various reasons. And then I've got this full report, which I could copy paste all of this context. And then when I jump back into my conversation with the spreadsheet, I'd say, hey, and here is a whole bunch of context from the market. Make sure you provide a report within the context of what's happening within our industry today. So that's just around bringing different data sources together. And deep research agents, much like the canvas within ChatGPT and Gemini, just blow my mind. I mean, the fact that I can send a deep research agent out to the web, it'll survey 700 websites, bring me a summary, build me a plan, that's something that people used to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for to McKinsey and Deloitte and Accenture, and now we have all of these tools at our fingertips. We've talked about the canvas, so I won't go through this one. This is just around creating reports. Turning complex data into summaries and charts. So Philippa mentioned this at the top of the call. This is a great way to basically visualize your information. All I've done here is I've uploaded the spreadsheet and said, can you create me some graphs around what's happening? I can then take these graphs, I can put them into my presentation, I can ask for more information, whatever it needs to be. Lots of flexibility. And there, that was the Gemini example. ChatGPT and Gemini, they're both okay at this job, I would say. I wouldn't, I think the information is often, it's pretty basic, as you can see the look and feel. Claude has gotten very, very good with its design and its ability to export different artifacts. So as an example, and this is a slightly different use case, but within Claude, I can create interactive dashboards. So really simply, all I did was I uploaded the spreadsheet and said, can you create for me an interactive dashboard with key information? And now not only have I got an ability to play with the numbers and the data, you can imagine how much more powerful this is when you stand up in front of your execs and you say, instead of reading a spreadsheet, let's just play with the numbers, or I'll send you the link. How about you read this instead of a pre-read and ask me questions? There's, again, very, very simple. I wish I could get out of this part. This takes no technical capability either. This is pure natural language within Claude, telling it how to create the artifact. All I've said is, here's the spreadsheet, transform this into, okay, it won't show me the prompt. Here's the spreadsheet, create for me an interactive dashboard. And there I have it. And I can publish this and share it, etc. What else have we got? Okay, again, coming back to, we all get a lot of reports and a lot of information. We all get tired of reading that information. So why don't we deliver that information in a format that is different to what people typically respond, almost like to break the pattern of how they're operating. So what I've got here is Notebook LM, really powerful tool from Google. Basically what I can do is I can upload tons of data sources into here, and I can speak to only those data sources. So that's good for a couple of reasons. It means that it's not going to pull in information from external sources. It's not going to hallucinate. It's only going to work with the data that I give it. So for example, if I said to Notebook LM now, what's the weather in Auckland? It's not going to know the weather in Auckland because it's only working off this information. So as a really good example, and not only can we add lots of data sources from Google Drive, which means it's live, we can add website links, we can add YouTube. Incredibly powerful. If you watch a lot of long form, like every week I'll go in and I'll put 60-minute videos from YouTube. I'll put them in here, maybe 10 of them, and say what's happened this week on this topic, or what are the differences in perspectives between these people. super powerful. I can even go and say, hey, here is all the information I want to analyze or research. Can you go and find me some more information like it on the web? And through the discover sources, it'll go and scour the web and find like information. But the really powerful feature I want to share with you is around the podcast and the video overview. So what I've done here is I've uploaded a summary from GPT or Gemini of the information from our report from September. And then what I've said is, can you create for me an audio overview? So please, I'll do the audio first, it's a bit better. Basically, it's created a podcast for me. Can anyone hear that? Okay, so basically what's happening is there is a okay, so what it's done is it's created a podcast for me and it's talking to this data. So instead of me having to read the information, I can send this out, someone can listen to it on their walk or on their run or on their drive. I can hear it in different formats rather than having to just read information all the time. We've even been able to create this into a video. So basically this is a summary slide deck of the, so it's talking to me as well as it's explaining the slides. It'll tell me the news or the results. But again, all coming back to the data that's in here. So you can see how this is another powerful way just to deliver information in such a way that isn't monotonous and gives people a different view of the world, especially if you're talking to someone who's not interested in data. They just want to, they're more visual in their approach. And last but not least is around how do we deliver information to particular audiences? Clearly, we could ask GPT or Gemini to say, create me a summary report, but let's be specific. This is for the CFO. It should focus on CFO aspects. The CFO is only going to care about spend, revenue, and ROAS or cost per acquisition. The CEO, even more high level profitability, perhaps. The COO, different types of metrics. So just being specific with how we ask for information and what sort of who the outcome user is going to be is going to help us really improve what we get back from the AI. I won't go through detail, but I'll just bring this up on a last slide. And basically what I've got here is the 10 commandments, just around how do you prepare your spreadsheets for AI. Basically, the macro point here is keep it simple. Just have very clean data as much as possible. You know, removing merged headings, removing color coding. Don't have CPA, have cost per acquisition, like very clear. Because at the end of the day, spreadsheets are just code. And the easier we can make the spreadsheet to be passable or legible by the AI, the better outcomes we'll get and the better outputs we'll get. So I will pause it there. Thank you so much for the time. I hope it was useful. I'd love any feedback. I haven't presented this particular deck or use cases as to whether it was valuable and what you liked about it.
Thank you so much. Great content in there. Demonstration of the different models as well is just invaluable, and seeing how things give different outputs from GPTs to projects. So that was really fantastic. Cool.
I was going to say it was really useful. Never seen all three of them, you know, looking at them, all three of them, and then considering what you get out of each. So that was just really, really good for me.
I'm glad to hear. Thank you, Lisette. Here's, should we look at the outputs and just see if there's any noticeable differences? Okay, so here's ChatGPT. Quite high level. So yeah, the ChatGPT, shorter, it doesn't have very good headings. It's given a pretty good plan. This is what to do for the next 2 weeks. It's quite high level, I suppose. Then we've got Claude, which is hard to read right now, but this looks much, and this is why I like Claude. It's just a lot more organized. You can see it's really well thought through. It's very clear. Like it's got the exec summary at the beginning, channel performance broken down. This is really rich information. Campaign level insights, what's best performing. It's telling us that the ROAS above 2.5 is best performing and ROAS below 0.7, like it's made a judgment call or it's leveraging its knowledge, audience performances, device performances, rationale, and then it's probably got some recommendations, and it's quite a detailed recommendation. So you can see the difference in detail and the ability, and you know, that's GPT-5 thinking model, that's GPT's best model. This is Claude's best model. I would say Claude has won that particular one. And then you've got Gemini with their model. This is Flash, not Pro, so it won't be as good as Pro, but it will still be pretty good. This is high level. It's lacking in numbers. It's a good qualitative assessment, I would say. It's got some recommendations, but these are very generic. So, we can see the outputs and the differences in what they've given us, which again, it's just interesting to compare and see what is my personal preference, where do I best align? And of course, we could change the prompting. I would say the Claude outputs with just a basic prompt are better than the others with a basic prompt. But if we were to level up the prompt across all three, we would start to see a closer kind of race in terms of quality.
Yeah, I think this is really great. So I just want to say a huge thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come in and share this knowledge with us. I think for all of us, it's super invaluable. So thanks, Mike. And I know that we probably don't have enough time for questions, but if anyone has a question, just please share it in the Slack channel, and I can either answer them, or if they're really complicated, then maybe share them with Mike, and we can come back at the office hours session next week and share the answers.
Well, lovely to speak with you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Had a lot of fun preparing it. This was 2 a.m. last night. I've got a newborn, so we're feeding and typing, which is cool. And yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you've got any questions, surface them to Philippa. If there's anything else I can help with, please don't be a stranger.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Mike.